Let's give them something to talk about. I see the energy running out. I got a planet to run around. Okay.
If we wanted a bigger viewing audience, by the way, we should do something like this where we talk about the NCC. We should talk about it like the next day.
And just throw all the clickbait on it.
Well, yeah. We're like late to the game where there's already 10 podcasts on the NCC.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We're going to do ours. We're going to talk about the affiliate experience, put it out there. And again, this is, we're doing this similar to them. We're recording it live, but it's really, most of our stuff gets viewed later. At least I hope it does.
At some point.
At some point. I do put our podcast though on Apple, by the way, and Spotify. If you ever want to listen to it in your car, you can double speed it, which is probably a good idea to look as slow as I talk.
Yeah, but then I speak, and then it's like.
I know, it's true.
It's a different.
But what's interesting is there's a lot to talk about. Which the fact that there's a lot to talk about, I think, is a good thing too.
Yeah, agreed.
Because it's having a little bit. CrossFit's always benefited from having a little bit of controversy all the way. From too many ring dips to box jump overs to Achilles tendon issues and all of those things. And so CrossFit's always benefited from that stuff.
Thanks, Harold. You just said you had a small echo. So we fixed it. I muted Craig, but thanks, Harold.
Oh, thank you.
Good catch.
Yeah. Thank you. So anyway, there is a lot to talk about, and I want to talk about it from the affiliate perspective and what my experience was as an affiliate owner, and then our community's experience was as athletes that were participating, and then as members of something so new. We have a lot of members. We had 26 or 27 members that were participating in this event. Some had been to competitions similar to this in the past. Most had not. Some
we had pretty much everybody in all different divisions.
Yeah, we did. We had everybody in all different divisions.
Novice, intermediate,
and for some of them, it was their first competition altogether.
Yeah.
Competition. And overall, walking away from that, if you had to ask them, they had an amazing time. Mm-hmm. There's some things that they didn't like with the workouts, which is normal with any CrossFit competition.
I mean, even just CrossFit workouts, people come in and bitch about some workouts just because they don't like the movements, or it's good for you.
You hear Diablo, you mean?
Yeah. Well, just
people complain
in general.
People complain.
Look at main site. What do you want me to do? L rope climbs?
People complain about our workouts at Diablo. No,
my ears are just always ringing for some reason.
Yeah. I think your wife even complains about the workout at Diablo when you write them.
She has a chance to review.
So CrossFit programming, that's one of the beauties of it. It's the known and unknowable, constantly varied, and that's what makes us good at fitness overall. Nature's not often not predictable. But anyway, let's kind of roll through. I think the first thing, if you do want to watch a better podcast on this on NCC, go to watch Hiller's. Hiller's was
really good one.
Yeah, I did. I liked it, and it was a balanced perspective. Look, he gave criticism, but he also talked about a lot of the positives, and he broke it down into bullet points, which I like because I'm old and like stuff broken down like that. It was very good content.
Yeah.
And then and he had some perspectives on the elites. He talked about the issues with the scoring and all that stuff. We're not going to get into that. It's already been covered. And then Amanda Hari, she put hers out Sunday night.
Yeah, she's on it.
Jeez,
first to the YouTube.
Yeah, she did I don't know. She's in the over 10,000 views, I think, and it was really cool because Carolyn Prevost was commenting on there in her comment section on what happened to her and what her thoughts were. It was all really good. So go to Amanda Hari's or Hiller's podcast if you want some more stuff on the elite stuff.
A little bit more in-depth details.
Amanda did good perspective on her.
She also competed.
Her experience because she competed in the intermediate. Intermediate females.
Yeah,
and so she gave her experience there, and she hung out with us the entire weekend at the tent, and that was really cool. It was really neat to see Hiller. Hiller came by, and he was in and among the community. That is really fucking cool.
Yeah.
People appreciate that, and it humanizes. Maybe he doesn't want this, but it humanizes Hiller and realize, okay, he's another bro like
he's
us.
A bro, yeah.
And he came up. What was really cool was he came up. I had texted him, "Hey, stop by our tent," and then someone messaged me, "Hey, he came." Of course, he came when I wasn't there, so I came over there. And right when I came there, Dave Castro and I started talking to Hiller, and then Dave comes walking up. Yep. And dude, it was an epic
A
moment.
little face off, huh?
Dude, to have the both of them there in the tent at the same time was like, wow. It was it was kind of a proud moment for Diablo. Admittedly, I felt pretty good about myself at that moment.
I had a little flashback to 2012 when Castro brought over Bob Harper.
Oh yeah, Bob Harper.
Yeah,
and
so it was like found the picture and it was like almost an identical type scenario underneath the tents in a semifinal or regional type event.
I'm gonna post
cool.
that. I was gonna post this week, but I'm gonna post it that picture next week. A good picture.
It's like, I mean, it's 2012 quality, so
that's right. That's good. But anyway, so that was neat, and those guys. It was great to talk to those guys, and they clearly they really enjoyed the experience as well. But anyway, so yeah, if you want the elite stuff, go there. We'll maybe touch on it a little bit. We have our thoughts on it.
Yeah.
The first thing is let's talk about the venue.
Yeah.
Because I was going into it, and I had actually sent a text message to others because I was one of our members here who's related to a police officer in Sacramento said, "Hey, careful. There are a lot of homeless encampments there."
Didn't he say it was like if Tenderloin was a park?
I wasn't going to say that, but since you've already said it, he said,
he's an officer up there, so I'm not just making it up myself.
The quote was, if Tenderloin was he goes, picture the Discovery Park. He goes, as if the Tenderloin was a park. And now that I go there, if I was homeless, that's where I would go.
That's a good spot. Yeah,
that's a good spot.
Green grass,
dude, shady.
Green grass in the middle of June too.
Yeah. And they have bathrooms there. They have nice public restrooms there. And that we overwhelmed. But it was nice. And here's the nice thing about it. One, it was a little bit hilly. It was down by the river. I know that sucked for Savannah and his crew for internet. Apparently.
Yeah, for like
I didn't have any issues.
Service.
I didn't have any issues with my phone.
Yeah, but we weren't trying to stream and pump out all the data.
No, you're right. I streamed like 5 or 6 heats though.
Oh, you did? Oh, that's true. Through Facebook. Yeah, that's true.
It all depends on who your carrier is.
Yeah.
Right? And I had AT&T, and for once in my life, AT&T didn't fail me.
I mean, I would imagine with all of the audio and just like the quality of the cameras that they're putting out there, it's probably draws a lot more of the data, or just it needs a better connection.
That's right. So anyway, so the venue itself, grassy, nice. All of the workout areas were relatively close to each other. It was easy to get to. You could get to one to the other. It was where we were, where the tents were, was shady and cool.
That was awesome.
It got to the 90s. Both days or all 3
I feel
days.
Like it was it just 90s?
Well, it might have gone to 100 on
I only went on Saturday, Sunday, so I wasn't there for that.
It might have gotten 100, but it was hot in the sun.
Yeah,
but when you went into the trees, it was relaxing. Yeah, like you weren't sitting there sweating like you were.
It wasn't, and it was in the trees with the tents, so it was like we had double coverage from the sun.
Yep. Let me give affiliates some tips, by the way, whether you want them or not. And the tips are this: one, when you have multiple tents, have more tents than you think you need, because especially if you have athletes that are competing, because they're going to want to lay down, roll out, and do all that stuff, which means you need ground cover. And this is just something from doing this for 17 years of going to these competitions and then owning an RV too. Ground cover is key.
Yeah, that was clutch. People could roll out, hang out, lay out, take a nap.
Yeah, go to Walmart, even Amazon.com, and look at RV ground cover, especially RVs, because the RVers know what they're doing. It's that kind of canvas material that
it's almost like a straw material.
It's like a straw material.
It's like a straw canvas.
Here's what's great about it. One, keeps all the grass out. Yeah. It's nice to lay on, comfortable to lay on. A little bit. It's almost a little bit padded.
Yeah.
But they turn the sprinklers on at night, and the water just runs right through it.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It doesn't soak in the water, and so you got this amazing ground cover, and that helps a lot. And then bring chairs, and then I brought a cooler and filled it full of ice just so people could put their own drinks in there. I did buy some water just to have it. We ended up drinking all those waters.
I got waters that next day too, and it went by pretty quick. Yeah.
And what's the other thing I brought? Oh, 2 tables. Because people like this, there's people don't want to set their stuff on the ground, or they got food or stuff like that, so bring tables. So ground cover, extra tents, ground cover, tables. Tell everybody bring a chair and bring a comfortable one. Don't bring some freaking 90-degree angled camping chair, one of those old school $10 ones you get at Big Five. Get one that leans back,
that you could recline into.
So much,
because you're going to want to take a load off after these, even as a spectator too. If you're coming to one of these events, like we had a lot of people that just came to spectate and hung out at the tent with everybody.
Which was fun.
which is great. But you still want to have a chair that you can relax
What
in
was
after
really
being on your
cool? What was
feet.
really cool is Kristen Holte and her crew from
Mhm.
Norway came and hung out with us
That's cool.
on
Friday.
on Saturday.
Was it Saturday?
No,
No,
Friday.
it was Friday because I
Friday.
didn't see them on Saturday.
That's right. Friday they hung out with us, and then we had a big whiteboard there, and we put everybody's heat times. Good Lord, it was just athlete to athlete to athlete to athlete. So
all the different divisions.
But that was kind of cool to have, so people could go cheer for other people, and they knew who was next. And then and then this is like a Diablo.
This is a clutch
specialty. I hung a clock on the tree, like a regular old school old man clock.
It's broken now. It doesn't work anymore, but it worked there.
It worked there. It did make the trip back. So I hang a clock out because that's the most asked question. At one point in time,
What time is it?
What time? At one point in time, I reached over to the cooler, bent down, and I was getting a drink out, and I turned to Yvonne, who was right to my right. I go, "Hey, what time is it?" And she goes, "The clock is literally above your head." It was.
Hey, who hung it there?
Yeah. Yeah. Ted Peterson did.
Oh, he did.
No,
Okay.
I told him to hang it there. He asked. He goes, "Where should we hang this?" But it was fun, and we did. We had a lot of our quite a few of our members came just to hang out.
Yeah.
And I got to hang out with the athletes. It was just like the old days.
It was so nostalgic.
Yeah, and
like just the whole thing, being outside and kind of going into it. I was kind of expecting a little bit more of a Sacktown throwdown, if you can remember that back in the day when you're in the dirt, grass is brown. It's this was such a cool. It was almost like a Madison in California.
That's well said. Yep, and there were so I got there Thursday night, and there were already a lot of tents set up. We secured an area. Thank you, Zoltan at CrossFit Pleasanton and Cole Gravitt, my coach Cole, who secured an area for us up on the top of the hill. Although there were plenty, even after we went, there was plenty of spaces.
They were starting to set up even on the back
down
side.
On the other side.
Yeah.
And it was, and when you walked around, like to get from the venue or to the competition venues to where we were, was like weaving through these tents. And it was really freaking cool.
Again, it was like a throwback.
Yeah. There's affiliates, and I said hello to a lot of affiliates and ran into a lot of OGs. It was a lot of fun. So and then so the venue was nice. I really liked it. They had it all fenced in, so it felt safe. Parking was okay. I was a little frustrated with it. Here's why I was frustrated with parking. And this is, again, when you're running these events, you need, by the way, hire whoever, if you ever decide to do an event this big, find someone that runs weddings or something, or big events. Because just all of the different variables, you need one of those critical path sheets, for project management, and like certain stuff has to get done at certain times, and you have to assign certain people jobs, and that's their job, and then make sure they have everything they need to get it done. But we came in for parking. They didn't really check our parking pass. VIP parking really kind of meant nothing.
Yeah. After paying $85 for it.
They essentially were parking everybody in the same place because they had a lot of people there, which was really cool.
It was cool. But my biggest pet peeve on the parking situation was the fact that you show up early and they put you the furthest away. It's like they should have been filling from the front back.
I got in an argument with the girl that was the running the parking in the morning. Not an argument, but just we had a kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
I said, you realize like I'm here early so I can get a good parking spot and I have VIP parking. She goes, but it just works better. It's easier for us this way. And I get that, right? She's got to park a lot of cars, and you start from the back and you fill it all in. So the people that showed up late got the best fucking parking.
Yeah, easy access to get out,
last to come, first to get out.
Yeah,
like, and
kind of a backwards VIP situation.
And so especially so if you're going to sell VIP parking, that's something to think about, right? Is make sure your VIP parking people are feeling like they're getting a VIP experience. They should be able to park closer and have the opportunity to get out sooner. That's it. That's why you pay for that. They pay the extra money. And there's especially if there's athletes. I felt bad for the athletes who were coming early in the morning.
Having to carry
had to park
way
the fuck out there. And then if you didn't have a wagon, like there were people who were shucking it on their shoulders and stuff.
I carried that last day because I had the ice chest with or I had ice with a bag. I did a nice long bear hug carry.
Did you?
My biceps were on fire by the time. It was a good workout. But it was like one of those situations where, like, I'm not even going to argue. I'm just going to go with it. And I parked like where you did the first time, right? All the way into the back.
Yeah. So VIP parking was not VIP. It was and I get why they got overwhelmed. And I think that was kind of the theme of the event. And by that, I mean, they were
just
overwhelmed.
A lot.
They were overwhelmed.
A lot of stuff going on.
overwhelmed by the popularity of it, right? Because there's a lot of fans there, and it was really cool, and there's a lot of people watching.
Big names.
And there were a lot of athletes competing, and that was overwhelming. And there were not enough volunteers. So they had this successful event, and word started getting out. So Friday was, really manageable for them. Saturday, on the other hand, when the crowds came, because everybody was on social media saying how cool it was and it was great, and they're seeing these athletes compete and everything else. So then people really started coming. It was
that's what you see too. Like even back in the regional day, it was Friday was kind of light, and then Saturday, Sunday really picks up.
Yeah, that's right. And it was. I'm glad you bring up the regionals, because it was a lot like the regionals.
It was a lot like regionals.
Okay. Let me ask you this. This is a guy. We started talking about this, and I made us go to live so we could talk about it. Pasadena was 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was 2023.
Yeah, 22, 23. Anyway, so it was when they brought back in-person
semifinals,
and they called them semifinals.
Yeah,
right?
And it was for individuals and teams.
Yeah, that's right. Individuals
and
teams.
after the quarterfinal qualifier.
Right. Which did you enjoy more? The one down in Pasadena, nice convention center down in Pasadena.
Oh, this one for sure.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah, the Pasadena thing was, it was cool because, there was a lot of stuff around. So if you're going to walk around, that's one thing. But, it's like I said, it's kind of like the old Sacktown Throwdown, the old regional Throwdown. You hang out with everybody. You got your tents.
Yes.
You didn't have tents before.
Well, right.
You couldn't set up a base camp.
So even, and I would say it was, Carson was okay too. But I'm going to say that this was like when we went down to San Diego to Del Mar race area. Because when you left, you didn't leave to go to a restaurant or something. You could drive someplace and go get something to eat, but it was much better for you to bring all your stuff and your food in, and I bet the vendors did great at
showing up prepared. By the way, it was quite the crowd in there.
But you would go to watch event, but then you'd go hang out with other CrossFitters again. And on the way, walking over there, like I said, I ran into people all day long that I knew and have known for years, and I got to say hello to
decades.
Because I didn't leave like Pasadena, where you leave and you just and you want to. It's interesting when you're in Pasadena at a venue like that, where you're in there and the crowd, it's loud in there, by the way, it's echoey because it's convention center, beautiful facilities, really cool, super professional, fun to watch. It professionalized the sport. It's
good warm-up area because it was inside,
great warm-up area and all that stuff. But when I left to go get something to eat, I didn't want to be around anybody.
Yeah. It's kind of like a de-stimulation.
Yeah. I was like, I wanted to go someplace where there were no CrossFitters and go eat quietly. Whereas it was more like I'd go watch it and then I want to come hang out and shoot the shit with everybody.
It was way more social.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what people really enjoyed about it. And I think it's a lesson for people that host these types of events in the future. And it's like something Jamie and I are thinking about if we decide to get back into hosting competitions. We've done a lot. We've probably done, I would think maybe almost 100 competitions we've hosted, close to it, if not hosted.
In total, between
hosted or setting up the equipment and doing all that stuff. Everything.
Being a part of a vendor or something like that. Yep.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot under our belt.
Well, if we include grid,
shit, if we throw grid in there, that's a whole other professional sport thing.
Right. And we did those.
Yeah.
We built those from the ground up.
We did those not just from a professional perspective, but also from an amateur perspective.
So we're not just winging this, by the way.
Yeah. We've got some experience under our belt.
Some experience. And so I love that there's something CrossFit about NCC.
Yeah.
From the workout, everybody having a little bit different, pirouette mat, everybody having
there was some constantly variedness there.
Yeah, there's some constant variedness there. Now, in terms of qualifying an athlete to the games, probably not ideal.
Yeah.
Right. Because these guys are professional athletes. They're training. I'm starting to come around on this, by the way, this whole thing, but they are training really, really hard and placing a lot of faith in the organization to have a fair event so that they can compare their fitness to somebody else.
I think we talked about this a little bit before coming in, and I think that personally, I like the idea of the unknown and the unknowable, right? Like that to me, that is CrossFit from the forging elite fitness. Being prepared for the unknown and unknowable.
Let me stop right there.
Yeah.
Were you okay with them when they announced the workouts versus announcing them sooner?
I kind of like that. I mean, I do enjoy the concept of unknown and unknowable. Like, the ability to adjust on the fly. This is something that we've had to deal with in the games in the past, right? Like, we're not always going to have the best environment, and just because it's not fair, it's just get tough, deal with the adversity and move on.
Right.
Do what you can do today, right? That's the idea of testing our fitness, is what can you do today, regardless on what the variables are.
Okay.
But the idea of releasing the workouts ahead of time, like from the elite perspective, I think they could have released some of the movement stuff in preparation to say, hey, we're going to see some of these things, but not say how it's going to be put out there. Just that way they can get at least a little heads up.
One of the old rules, I don't know if it's unwritten rule, I don't know, maybe it was a rule I came up with in my head.
Just now.
No, you know who told me this? It was Tony Budding. When he was talking about grid and getting grid going, but he was also talking about competitions in general. Is don't make the athletes look stupid.
Yeah.
Or incompetent.
Yeah.
Especially because they're going to be on TV, or they're going to be in front of their fans, or they're going to be in front of family and friends.
I mean, you want them to put on a good show, right? Like, for your spectators, for your fans. And if you're making them look,
especially the elites, and look, I get missing a clean, but when most of the girls can't even make it to the last bar in time, that's not probably ideal.
It's not ideal.
Which means you need to test these workouts thoroughly, and as you said, test them on site.
Yes.
Or in a similar venue, so that you have a really good understanding how athletes are going to finish and look when they're doing the workout.
It's just like kind of testing the logistics aspect, right? Like, you can do the workout themselves in a gym and test it that way, but until you've gone to the floor and, like the pirouettes, for example, not being on a flat surface,
right?
That could be one of those things that they could emphasize beforehand. Hey, practice your pirouettes.
You also have
uneven,
especially if you're going to broadcast, or if you're going to have a lot of fans, or you need to think about how
it looks.
Well, how it looks and how it feels for the fans.
Yeah.
Let's delve into when we transition into masters. And
one thing I just want to kind of come back onto, the idea of the unknown and the unknowable. I love that. I like the fact that, you're showing up to an event and you're going to show your fitness and what you can do that day, regardless getting out the workouts the day before. But I think from the elite perspective, because those guys are putting so much time and effort and putting so many like eggs in one basket trying to qualify to the games
and spending a lot of money.
I think that's
a good point.
They kind of almost need to be just disclose, hey, we are unknown and unknowable. So be prepared for curveballs. Right. Like, we are going to be throwing curveballs, whether they're intentional or if that's just the way things lay.
I think one is, I think they showed someone from NCC doing the pullover routine.
Yeah.
And so I saw people at Diablo practicing it before we went out. And then the other one they talked about pirouettes.
Yeah.
And here's what they did though, that kind of tweaked me a little bit, is they said it was
4 foot
by 4 foot box. Now think about a Diablo where they're preparing that, right? So they'll go get my athletes will go get the blue tape.
Yep.
And they'll
measure it out.
They'll measure a 4 by 4 box, and they're practicing on a
flat
firm stall mat on a
surface.
flat surface.
Now,
and you get there and you see that was about a 2.5 by 2.5 square foot box. It wasn't even 3 feet.
No. It was, I would even say, was that 2 feet?
Yeah. And you had to start in the grass and hand walk onto the rubber mat. And I know some people actually, the judges let them kick up on the mat. Not much of a difference, but still, like, it's enough of a difference. Like, it could be the difference between winning an event and not winning an event.
And something like that could be something that they can, disclose a couple weeks ahead. Hey, practice your pirouettes on a slight slope. Like, you can find a slope and practice it and at least get some experience with it.
Now, let's can we move to the masters? And, okay. So
do you want to go through the programming with the masters, or?
Well, not really. Let's just break down some of the
patterns.
some of the patterns and movements, and then I also want to talk about equipment overall too, just the layout of the equipment and stuff like that. And for the masters, our masters, I felt overall our masters, they had a great experience with it. They love this event, and they'll probably sign up next year.
Yeah.
And more masters in here
Most
told me
likely
they want to do it next year.
Yeah.
Great. But most, if not all, of my masters were frustrated with some of the elements of the programming, because they were standing around either not able to do it or they were getting no rep. Pirouettes was one.
And it let's just make it clear too. It wasn't just our masters that were having a hard time with those movements.
Oh, guaranteed.
Well, I'm just gonna put out the fact that Chris, for example, Chris McCurry went out there, didn't attempt one pirouette, and everybody else is out there attempting the pirouettes, but he sold out for the tiebreak time, and he ended up moving up spots for not even attempting it because nobody else could do it.
It's right. So that right there is like that shouldn't be a thing.
And that could have been addressed like early on, because within the qualifier, right, it was a max handstand hold.
Yes.
And he said he had an 8-second hold, and he was one of the top athletes on that event. And if you can't hold longer than 8 seconds, why are you even programming the pirouette?
And that's one of the dangers of programming for masters.
Yeah.
Meaning you get a vocal, really fucking good master. And they're like, I can do this stuff. I can't believe you're not programming, 225 Isabel for the 50 to 54 division. I can do that.
The one outlier.
You get the outliers. And you can't listen to the outliers.
No, not.
That's a good point.
Not in a participatory sport.
You can't listen to the outliers on both sides.
Yeah.
You can't listen to the ones that say, hey, it shouldn't even be snatch. It should just be cleans
or deadlifts.
Right. Like you can't listen to that outlier, but you can't listen to the other ones too. And they're probably in your gym, and I know they can, and they're badass, but that's not the person to listen to.
Yeah.
What you want to try to do is hit that 60 to 70% of the athletes that are in that in that middle range. And you want to make it totally doable for them.
Yeah.
And you will see some awesome competitions on the floor. And the ones that are in that top 10%, they'll have a great workout. They'll just finish faster.
Yeah. And it's also fun.
Right.
It's not fun when you look out there and you see discouraged faces because they almost got it, but then they slipped and fell off, or they didn't slip, but they fell off the pad because it was uneven.
Sherry Garcia was devastated on Saturday. She's tall, athlete, super freaking fit. Great CrossFitter, has made amazing. Couldn't do pirouettes, couldn't get through the pullovers. Comes out the next day, which is great. And she finishes second, row run. And then the last workout was the rope climbs and cleans. And I'm not saying you should take, but she's in that 60% in the middle. And there should be, and it would have been a better competition. It may not have changed the overall results, but it would have brought her into the competition more. And she would have had a better experience, which means she's more likely to come back. Tell other people to come.
But that's the point, is she would tell more people to come. Right. And I think from my perspective, I think that was kind of a missed opportunity.
Right.
Especially when we have like these new rankings, new levels, we're coming into the Community Cup. It's an opportunity to kind of showcase the progression that you can use with some of these things, right? Like a pirouette, it's an inverted skill. It could have been a handstand walk across a 4 foot, like they could have put like plywood out, right? And you could have done a pirouette on the plywood, so you're still on a flat surface,
right?
And then you could have had a handstand walk across like an 8 foot section on the plywood,
right,
out on the field. It could have been a cartwheel. Yeah. It could have been as long as your head or your feet go over your head at some point as you do some kind of a skill, like they could have showcased other things like that for the other divisions.
No question. And it was then heavy Isabel.
Yeah.
There's just right now, look, I've done Isabel many times, and I think it's a great workout. It's snatches, and it doesn't have to be squat snatches, but heavy Isabel is a bastardized version of Isabel for games athletes,
for elite.
Yep. It came out, and that's targeted at the elite athlete. Same thing, the heavy DT, for example.
Yeah.
Or double DT. That was to show, in a sense, CrossFitters in general, what games athletes were capable of.
Yeah.
It was a spectacle.
Yeah.
Watching heavy DT and then double DT, like going, holy crap, these guys can beat me in double DT, me just doing it once. It was awesome. But that is not for a regional competition or local competition for masters, something I think that they should be doing. You could have done,
or
you
even the intermediate to novice.
That's right. You could have
heavy DT or heavy Isabel.
All you had to do is program Isabel.
Yeah. That would have been a great test.
It would have been a great test.
And you know what? People would have appreciated that because then that's a benchmark workout. That's a workout that they can constantly eventually see in their class and gym sessions.
This is, by the way, let me just catch this with, this is 2020 hindsight.
Yes,
right?
yes.
After the fact. Though I do know that like Zoltan at CrossFit Pleasanton had reached out. A lot of athletes had reached out to the NCC guys that goes, hey, these weights, we can't even do them. And they lowered it slightly. But they still, there were so many people, so many athletes that couldn't do it, or they could only get a couple at that. And then to make it fair, they added a tiebreak on the fly. The last minute of the time, under the time cap, we're going to let you do cleans if you didn't do any snatches as the tiebreak. Yeah. It's like, okay, wait a minute. So what's the workout? Yeah. So, and I get, look, I understand.
Is it a single modality workout?
But if you're, here's just a general rule of thumb. If you're having to make adjustments in the workouts at the competition to include more athletes, you probably didn't test your workout enough. Yeah. Or you were relying on the outliers to tell you, oh, this is awesome. I can't believe it. We're going to have heavy Isabel. I can do that. And you're talking to the one bro that can.
I mean, this kind of comes back to the idea of releasing the workouts right before the event, right? Like it doesn't give enough people enough time to at least provide some kind of feedback where they can make a good change, right? Well, or make an adjustment.
Heavy Isabel was announced early.
For the elites, because we knew that was
for the
was
age,
it for all the age groups
the age
too?
Groups too? Yeah, because I remember Zoltan texting me and telling him like, hey, I can't do that weight. Yeah. I can't do that weight. And there was a number of our athletes here that were like, I can't do that weight. I'm just going to go out there. And you think about that. You're paying a whole bunch of money. You're going all the way over there. Your family and friends are going to be there. Other members of your gym are going to be there. And you're going to walk out and stand there. And that happened with the teams too. Some of the teams couldn't do the lifts.
Well, they also increased the weight on some of the lifts.
So that's just look, it's a learning experience. And that is how competitions need to learn. Especially for novice, intermediate, rookies, for
age groups,
certain age groups. My recommendation, based on our years of doing this, make these athletes look good, and make it fun.
It's kind of like when you're running an affiliate or you're running classes. You want your athletes to have the small wins, the little successes, the things that's going to keep them coming back tomorrow.
Think about that. If we held them to a standard like that, people wouldn't come. They'd cancel their memberships.
Yeah. Oh, this is too much for me. I'm going to go and do Orange Theory instead. Like,
Why do so many people do High Rocks? What do they have?
Perfect example.
Why do a zillion people do High Rocks?
Yeah.
Because all that stuff is doable.
Very doable.
Granted, their standards suck, but
they're going to adopt the lunge.
It's approachable. And at the end of the day, we want as many people doing this stuff as possible. Yeah. And you think, the hardcore CrossFitters will probably say, no, it's got to be hard. Yes, it does for the elites.
But that's the thing, though. It's hard when you go hard.
Well, that's right.
You got to find your intensity in the workout. And just because you don't have to make up something new to make it more difficult, you just put a little bit more stress to make them go faster.
I think it was Jeremy Jones that said that, watch out for the guy that wants to put a weight vest on every time we do a run. Just because that guy just wants to run slow.
It's just like what is it called? I can't remember what he said, but it was something along the lines. You're just like, you're sabotaging yourself.
Yes.
On your overall fitness, because you're not going to push yourself to go faster on your run. You're just going to have.
Akeem used to say it because when I turned 50, I was always reluctant to, there's new weight. There's weights at 55. And I was like always reluctant. And he's like, well, you need to learn to move faster. Use the lighter weights.
Yeah.
And it's true. You're going to do more volume.
Yeah.
We had our coach here that was injured this year in the Open. So he's a good athlete. And he ended up being rookie level. And he did the first community cup, the rookie level, with the box jump overs.
And he got smoked.
He did 18 rounds of the box. And he's tall guys who have box step overs, but he said he was just smoked. And that's what happens.
Yeah.
You get one, your confidence goes up. Two, your performance level goes up. and it's way more fun.
Yeah. Like as a competition, if you treat it as like when you're planning these comps, I think the more you think of it as how you would treat your own gym community, how you program for them, like what kind of experience do you want to curate for them during that weekend?
Well said.
That's going to help keep that event alive.
Yes.
And thriving,
and get more people
and more people the next
and
time
more
around.
people excited
more people to try the online qualifiers. You know, it's just going to get, so then you won't have to backfill anymore.
A competition, a CrossFit competition should not be, and this, people have said this to Dave in the past, the CrossFit competition is not the competition versus the athlete.
Yeah. Yes, that's a really good point.
It is the competition enabling the athletes to demonstrate what their work capacity is.
It's a way for them to express their fitness.
Yeah. And if you're not doing that, you're gonna miss out, and you create a little bit of resentment. Sherry, thank God she had an awesome experience on Sunday, because she was
awesome
on Saturday. That felt like she wanted to quit competing.
Yeah.
So that's enough about that. We can go into that one. The equipments. I wanted to talk because this is something that Jamie's really good at. And in the past, when we've done competitions or we've advised other competitions on because we used to rent equipment and bring equipment to competitions. And when we were doing that, we would advise, and you've helped people, remember you helping Larry help program competitions as well. Jamie approaches it from the perspective of minimalism. In other words, we want to test all of these different areas of fitness, but at the same time, we want to minimize the amount of equipment that we have to have on the field to play, and overall that we have to bring. Especially us with Diablo at the time was bringing the equiment there. So
we had a giant trailer, but you could only put so much weight in it.
Right. So I remember at what was it? The
Moxie Madness?
No, not
Sacktown.
Yeah.
Deuces Wild.
See, we have done
Average Joe's.
Dude,
which one?
Do we have done 100?
Bros and Betty.
See, we have done 100. We have so many. I was thinking of the Masters competition.
Okay, Masters. Masters Madness.
Right.
Yeah.
And they had, they wanted. Remember, they wanted a dumbbell ladder in.
You're talking about NorCal
Masters.
Yes.
They wanted a dumbbell ladder in 5-pound.
Oh
increments,
my God, that was so
like
silly.
all the way up to like 120. Like, and
we got it for them, but they didn't even use it.
No, they didn't. They changed.
They changed it, and we showed up with a pallet with 5s to 100.
Yes,
pairs of 5s to 100. They didn't fucking use
multiple sets.
Oh, was it multiple sets?
Yes, multiple sets.
I just remember driving a trailer out there.
Oh my God. And it's like, and then I went down, I did this competition. I got invited. I forget who invited me down. Forgive me if you were the one someone invited me down to San Diego to do this Christmas workout at this gym.
Oh, was it like a reindeer games?
Yeah, it was
or something?
like one of those things.
Yeah.
And it was a 1-day comp. And the only thing they had in the comp was sandbags and barbells.
Love it.
And it was awesome. We had such a great time.
Yeah.
And sandbags, barbells, and a rower.
Okay.
And then they made a variety of different workouts from that combination.
Yeah,
and it was a blast. And it was so easy for them.
Yeah.
In terms of the competition. And I get, and so when you think about things like, workouts where you have 3 different weights on the barbell, increasing weight barbells.
Which I love those workouts.
You're increasing the complexity of the weight combinations that you have to bring, which created a problem for NCC. But then you're also including a new variable in the workout, especially if you don't have multiple barbells.
Yeah.
And that is,
or weight loaders.
Yeah. Someone might not go to the games because they're slow at changing the weight on their bar.
But that's no.
Yeah. Don't make any excuses.
I'm not making excuses.
I don't feel like somebody should be hindered from going to the games. And I'm not talking about the mistakes that were made in terms of loading. I'm just talking about the actual speed of loading
from the spectacle perspective too.
Right. You're over the bar and you're trying to put plates on the bar, like in a fast Metcon. What a pain in the ass.
I don't mind and I'll just kind of play devil's advocate on that. I don't mind the weight loading and that.
All right.
What I don't like is the fact that outside of the elite, they made everybody come back after doing that box jump over. They had everybody come back to adjust the load before they went to the rope climb. And the amount of people in the divisions under the elite that got to the weight load with 30 seconds left just to load the barbell was kind of silly, because they could have had that 30 seconds to jump up the rope, right? They could have gotten that rope, or could have at least attempted the rope climb. But because of all the judges calling them back to change the load on the bar, that was silly. Like, that should have been like, you can only go to and from here over those boxes. Now, how you decide to jump back over to get the weights on there, that's strategy. It took the strategy away.
Right. So right there. So here's, that's something that needs to be tested with multiple athletes at the same time.
Yeah.
In a similar environment. And I could sense that it probably wasn't tested with the same equipment, by the way.
Same equipment. The barbells.
Those barbells were shorty bars, which are, by the way, you're changing a weight on a shorty bar. Shorty barbells, or if
they feel different.
They feel different.
They feel different.
No,
they don't have the same width, no oscillation.
Especially for snatches,
yeah.
They're harder.
I'm actually pretty surprised that they used the heavy Isabel with the short bars.
Yes.
I do like the fact that it's
not the same.
It's the fact that you're unknown and unknowable for the elites. Right. But when you're expecting all the divisions to do some form of a heavy Isabel, I think you can't do that on a short bar. Like, nobody else has that experience, like where your hands go. It's just, doesn't make the athletes look good.
Anyway, so coming back to the equipment, you want to minimize equipment. So on that last workout, they've got 2 boxes out there, and you pointed this out. There's 48 boxes out there for 2 box jumps,
which I think was
having
silly.
to haul all those boxes. That's what I like, because you and I have done this, loading a trailer with all those fucking boxes.
And if you,
it was just like,
so,
and one, they could have had 1 box.
They didn't even need a box.
No, but okay. Well,
I'll explain why in a second.
But let me give mine. Let me give mine first, and then you do yours.
Yeah.
Because Yvonne pointed this out, and she was perfect about it. She goes, "Why didn't they just have 1 box and do 3 box jumps? 1 more box jump."
Yeah.
So as you come off the rope,
up over. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Up over, and so you go over, back, and then over, and you're now going the same direction you want to do. Yeah. And on the way back, you do 1, 2, 3, and you go back, and now you're going the same direction.
That's a good adjustment.
Yeah. Like, I was like, that was easy. And then now you have 1 less truckload of shit
and
going to the venue.
It's less stress on your volunteers.
Oh my God.
Like, if you're trying to preserve your volunteers and the people that are doing all this work, you could have done this whole thing with no box jumps.
Thank you.
Like, if you want to do something,
that's the consideration right there.
But here's the thing: if you want to have some form of a traverse, right? Like that, I'm assuming that's what they were going for, is to have some form of a traverse. Like, I like the idea of the heavy cleans into a box jump, right? Like the plyometric aspect. Why not use a broad jump?
Yeah,
no box at all.
Right.
There's no room, especially with those boxes. Like, I'm not a fan of doing those boxes in a speedy environment, because
we saw some
on the 30-inch box,
we saw some people eat it,
and it's not like the ground's super level. I mean, it's more level than the other stage, but a broad jump would have been pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
It would have been. It would have made that floor a lot less of a cluster.
Yeah, you would have more places to put all those fucking weights.
Yeah. You could have had the bars even going sideways.
Oh yeah.
More, you could have staggered them differently too.
Look, we have had some experiences in the CrossFit community that have really damaged the reputation of CrossFit and the sport of CrossFit. Where there's been accidents, excessive injuries. They've shown up on videos, some catastrophic. Like Kevin Ogar's accident. That set us back and obviously set him back for the rest of his life.
Some of the other stuff that OC did too back then.
Right. There was some
hurdles.
Yeah. Well, even at the CrossFit games, the wooden blocks, the wooden worm. Like there's just and we've had these things, and we need to learn from those things and get better. And not double down. We have to look back, because one injury that is made public, one catastrophic injury has been public, and there were a couple injuries at the NCC, and that could have been avoided with different equipment or different programming,
different approach to the logistics,
different approach. And again, the event as a whole, we had an awesome experience.
Yeah.
And what we need to do, and what Ben and Blair need to do, and I hope they do it again, because they've got something here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I love the festival style of this, And I think that's important for us as we get out. I think we need to get out of the convention centers and we need to get back to
the fairgrounds.
Back to the fairgrounds.
Yep. 1000%.
Fairgrounds is cool because you can do some stuff indoors.
Yeah. Yeah. You can. Yeah, that's true.
Most of these fairgrounds that have indoor and
we had a grid event at a fairgrounds.
Yeah. It was a great experience.
Imagine an indoor venue, and then you have an outdoor venue.
Oh, indoor and outdoor, and then you got.
Yeah.
Remember Santa Clara Fairgrounds?
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Loved it.
And they didn't do an indoor thing though.
No, but I remember they put the shade covering up the next year.
Yeah,
and they made it nice. But it wasn't indoor, but it was still just it was just an awesome venue.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's something to think about for CrossFit. But in terms of like equipment, and I forgot what Jamie's point was one of the best. Think about your volunteers who are having to move all that equipment around.
Don't have these events without volunteers. And if you're programming your event for the athletes and not considering your volunteers and judges, I think that's one way that we can progress this sport, is if we are also considering our volunteers just as much as we consider the athletes.
Let's start sooner. Everyone, all of these competitions, let's start sooner in terms of bringing volunteers on board.
Mm-hmm.
I had volunteers there were judging.
You volunteered too.
12. Yeah. Well, I hope the volunteers didn't show up. It wasn't organized, or whoever was supposed to set up the warm up area didn't. So I set that up. Becca Voigt, shout out to Becca Voigt. She helped me set that up too. That was cool. And then, but the affiliates are the lifeblood of this stuff. And, I don't want to go on another rant, but I'm going to go on another rant. And it is my members that are coming over there and volunteering 10 to 20 hour days. It's my members that are coming over there and coming in buying tickets to watch our athletes compete. 26 athletes competed, and that's awesome. That's great for my community. And I'm grateful to NCC for that, because the stories and the pictures and everything else. Because if my community was watching it from just social media, they all want to go to it next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because what they saw was really cool.
Yeah.
So that means that all of these competitions, not just NCC, but they need to start really early with incentives for volunteers. Now, granted, some of these guys got shoes and a shirt and stuff, but there's other ways to do it. For example, if or for some reason or other, you're going to have a shortage of volunteers on the day of the event, you might, as people are coming in the door, go, "Hey, can you give us 2 hours today?"
Yeah.
And give them a free shirt
and
or something like
incentivize
that.
Them. Yeah.
Right there at the door. Hey, we need 2 hours of volunteering. If anybody's got time.
Hey, you can have a big sign up board and like
right there in the
do
facility.
It up,
yes.
Right? Make it a big in your face. Hey, you want to be a part of the event?
Yeah.
Because I think that's cool too. Is like we have a lot of members that go and volunteer at these events and they have a blast.
I love your shirt, by the way. I didn't.
Yeah, you like that Pre-Bot?
From the Aromas. Yep. That's well played.
Like I said, this was a nostalgic event.
CrossFitters love to help.
Yeah.
They love to help others.
They like to be a part of the process.
They like to be a part of the process. Yeah. And so I think and I'm going to do this next year. I'm going to help recruit more volunteers, but I think there needs to be more of an effort. And I almost more than signing up people for like the online qualifiers and everything else. I think if you start getting volunteers, you'll get lots of people signing up to do the competition.
Crazy. It would be kind of fun. Is figuring out a competition for the volunteers as part of like the online qualifier.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Write that down.
Yeah. Figure out as part of the online qualifier how to get volunteers
and call it a volunteer bash or something. I don't know.
Right.
That's a cool idea.
Yep. There's better ways to. I'm sure there are better ways, but I bet there's some really unique ways to get volunteers to step up with, maybe one of the days of, one of the events turns around and the volunteers compete.
Yeah.
The cleanup competition.
Yeah. Who gets to clean up that lane? Who loads the bar and unloads the bar fastest?
You know, it'd be cool is to do that with the volunteers at the end of the day. Have some sort of volunteer comp with the athletes as the judges.
Ooh, that's cool,
right?
It kind of reminds me like back in I remember I was doing this for a while back in the day for classes. It was I would time them as soon as the workout was over. I would time them until. Give all the bars, all the weights, all the rows, everything's floor is clear. The time doesn't stop until the last clip is put away. And I was timing it and putting the time up at the end of every class. So they were kind of competing against each other based off of just their time to clean up.
I love that. You know, at the games, there is a bit of competition, like when they bring the Big Bob back.
Yeah,
kind of stuff. And it's really fun. And that's something to think about. You really got to take care of those volunteers.
Yeah.
They need to have food, lots of drink, and they, you know, maybe a free pass, maybe free entry fee for if they want to compete next year kind of thing.
Yeah.
So some of the stuff like that, but you can make it fun for them. I like that.
Yeah.
You know, what would have been cool was let the volunteers like do the gator push.
Yeah, I think they did.
The gator push was. Yeah, they did. They had to push it back. They had to push those sleds back. We won't even go there. Everybody's talked about the gator push. We'll move that. I do like here's what I do like the idea of it. Like I love the gator. You know what? I do want to talk about the gator push because of this. The commentary in the feed and like when people were streaming it and when Savan put his post or his video out on it was awesome. People loved it because it reminded them of just kind of like old school CrossFit.
Yeah.
Do you think about what Ariel Lowen did in that cowboy fit thing she did in the stadium? Then when, you know, it was all different kind of like, you know, tire over the fence, you know, roping up, dragging a sled while sitting in a saddle. All of that stuff is kind of real life fitness.
Yeah.
And that's what it harkened back to with that gator push. It was kind of like, this is real life stuff, loading shit in the back of a gator and then pushing that gator. More events like that would be cool, but that's an opportunity for the fans to participate.
Yeah.
You know, you may not, you know, and here's the other thing is I think a time trial version would be better. So that, and that's what
everybody's doing.
Well, that's what Ariel Lowen did.
Thing,
it was a time trial, right? So you went out, every athlete went through the course as a time trial. And so everybody does the same thing. And you do, you know, maybe a series of things. So it's load, push the gator, then you go on to something else, and then and now you've got the best time. And what's really cool, you think about the Tour de France where they have the time trial. I love that day in the Tour de France because now you have here's the best time of the day.
Yeah.
And then you have the other time as the guy's riding at every stage, you go, oh shit, he's getting close. Oh man, he could do it. Oh man, he could do it. They're even so good now with the technology where they actually can show the rider.
Like it's like almost like a ghost center.
The ghost scenario. Now CrossFit, we're not there yet.
No. We got a ways to go.
We got a ways to go for that. But time trial stuff would be fun.
Yeah, that would be cool.
If you've got the time in the event
the logistics,
to do it. And the logistics.
Yeah.
Because, you know, getting 40 athletes through a time trial does take some time.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would, if you're running it in heats, like with like cycling, you know, or like downhill racing, when back in the day it was downhill mountain bike racing, you start every minute.
Yeah.
So if you're running
there's multiple athletes
minute,
multiple athletes on the course.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that would be one way to do it. But it comes back down to what's the logistics of the workout, you know, how much judging is needed. Right.
That's one way you could use chip timers too. So that way you wouldn't even have to, if one athlete passes,
that's true.
If an athlete passes another athlete, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That would be cool.
Right.
Definitely something to
I think that personally would be fun. I've actually pitched that idea to, I think, no, I haven't pitched it to Dave. I pitched it to Boz a couple times. Is do some sort of time trial at the games. Again, logistics makes it tough. But anyway, that's something to think about. But then, you know, creating a really cool experience for the volunteers. That might be like, that's a good Sunday event too.
Yeah.
Is you do a volunteer competition.
Yeah.
Right there on the field, on that big field.
Who's the MVP?
Yeah, dude. Like just everybody's got an assortment of equipment out there on the field. And you got, you know, 3 volunteers per team. And your goal as a team is to bring all that equipment and bring it back, and who wins.
Yeah, kind of like was that 2011, the team event where they have the sandbags, they had to carry the sandbags from point A to point B over the hurdles and stuff.
That would be badass.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
That would be badass. Anyway, those are our thoughts on that.
Yeah.
And then, the other thing I wanted to touch on, I did like, you know, the live broadcast is cool, but the delayed broadcast later in the day and seeing it later today was also cool.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a problem with that.
No.
I kind of like the idea of exclusivity for those fans that
are there. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
And let the fans live stream each individual athlete if you want,
for their communities and stuff, like you did with some people with
Diablo. But otherwise, pre-record and then do an edited show in the evening, I think that gives you an opportunity to make the athletes look better doing it.
Look better, but also your product's going to look better.
Yeah, I think so too.
If you're just hustling and trying to get it streaming live and you get glitchy feedback, it's not going to look as good.
We know how much that costs.
Yeah.
Grid, and when Grid, was, if you wanted a truck there for a day, it was $70,000.
Froning talked about that for Mayhem Classic.
Yeah,
it
was up to close to $200,000 I spent.
Yeah, just in broadcast,
right? Because you got to get a truck there that's got the satellite features, and then you have to have someone that's doing you have to have a team of people that are doing all the editing, right? So the replays, and then you have to have someone there that's dedicated to the scoring and all the graphics that are up on the board.
Yeah,
it's no joke.
It's a lot.
It is no joke. $100,000 to $200,000 for a 3-day event is about right. I know how. Remember, we used to count those trucks they had at the games.
Like 11 trucks.
Yeah, at $50,000 a truck
a day.
Yes,
a day.
Was crazy. But that gives you an incredible broadcast. But like for these semifinal events, you don't need that.
No,
you just pre-record it
and tell a story later.
Yeah, tell a story later.
That's cool.
So anyway, it was so that part I like. Again, if you want to hear more about the elites, go watch someone else that's better at this than us.
Yeah,
Hiller's broadcast is really good. I'll pump him up one more time. That way he doesn't attack me later on something else.
Get us in more trouble.
Does
he know?
Yeah, give me another lawsuit that I
can. There's more to come on this one.
Yeah, there is more to come on this one. I can't wait for that broadcast when that comes. I have to hold back every time when I do one of these podcasts. I'm not sure what I'm thinking right now. Good Lord. Anyway, so but go watch Amanda or watch Amanda's and then watch Hiller's and then watch Savon's events themselves, because it's pretty cool to watch that and see what's going on.
Yeah.
And then and you know where we stand. We thank you Blair and Ben for putting on a cool event for our affiliate. My affiliate loved it. The feeling and environment there was great. Let's see if we can I think there's something to this festival thing, Jamie.
Oh, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
And the idea of getting a lot of athletes through, there's, High Rocks clearly has a formula that's working. Mass participation. There's a way to get a lot of athletes through and then keep them there all day while they hang out and have fun and have real connections with the vendors.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the vendors, I don't know how they did, but I suspect
it was pretty popular.
Probably wish
it was pretty popular. There's a lot of people in there, which was cool.
And
there's a lot more people in there than there was in Pasadena.
And the food places weren't overwhelmed. Like there weren't huge lines.
Yeah.
There weren't huge lines. It was you could get to the food and get food. Porta potties. Hey, by the way,
that was one of the gripes that I have.
Here's something to do. Yeah, go ahead. You
put that in the middle of the venue, especially if you don't have a special spot for the athletes to go and use it.
Yeah.
Because if you're on that far stage and you got to run it's just really inconvenient.
Yeah. And that's
especially from an elite
and that's
perspective.
The small stuff. That's why you need a wedding planner.
Yeah.
You need someone that's really good at that stuff.
And I think they could have fit that back to the side and behind.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
at one point on Friday, at noon on Friday, I went there and I saw all these girls outside the porta potties going porta potty. There was no toilet paper.
Oh no.
They ran out of toilet paper. So little stuff like that, right? Yeah. You can't do that. Here's the other thing. Take care of your elite athletes. And by that I mean I've always been, hey, be part of the community and everything else. But these guys are like, I think about Kristen and her athletes, Oda and Andrea, that coming here. They flew from Norway to be here.
Yeah.
And they're using a porta potty and they're using one all the way on the other side of the field. And it was just like, the elite athletes need their own area.
I think having a dedicated tent where they got a few porta potties.
Yeah, they could put down their stuff. They don't have to worry about their backpacks and their gear that they're bringing there. They have space to get away from people that may want pictures.
That's right. That is something. I mean, yeah,
walking around for an athlete is different than walking around like me and you walking around.
Oh yeah,
and
especially if you're in your head and you're trying to think about the next event or maybe trying to forget about the last event.
Right. Everyone wants to take a picture with you and everything. You want to be humble and kind, but there's a time and a place. Have a VIP area for your athletes.
Yeah, for your elite athletes.
Really make it a nice experience for them, because they are that at this point now. Those guys are all they're doing is training, eating, sleeping, training, eating, sleeping, and traveling.
Yeah.
That's another one I wanted to touch on. Other than that, let me end. I think this one too is affiliates. It's up to us. Like Ben and Blair. They did a good job, but we can do more to help those local competitions to make them even greater. And I'm really convinced now, and because I've been back and forth, is like, we have this discussion about should CrossFit
all the time,
should CrossFit sell the games and let that go off and be its own thing. There's very few things that can bring a bunch of affiliates together. Very few things. You can have a education conference. You can do something like the Two Brain thing.
Affiliate gathering.
You can do an affiliate gathering. Those are okay, but that won't bring all my members too.
No.
It brings,
it's a very different
things that'll bring coaches together. There's things that'll bring owners together. There's things that like these competitions, but the competition events bring everybody together.
Yeah.
And we need to do more to support those and host more of those things so that we can bring everybody together, because it's a really good feeling when we're all together.
It is.
And I think it's really powerful for CrossFit, the community. I know Savon and Matt don't want me to say community anymore. Matt went on
CrossFitters.
Matt went on a rant. And I know I figured out, I'm a little bit late again, but I figured out why, because those guys at WFP, all like communities, like every other word, community. It's like, okay. You're starting to sound like an Orange Theory commercial.
Yeah.
Community is what happens when CrossFit get together. Byproduct. It's not something that brings us in.
Yeah.
Like, hey, it's going to be a community event. Let's go.
Yeah.
So I get it. Savon said, because I commented, hey, dude, are we supposed to get rid of this word? Like, we own this word. We've created that. Savon said,
we didn't.
Savon's comment was to me, he was like, Craig, sometimes I think you got bumped on your head with some comment. It was pretty funny. And no, I do get it. It's a totally overused word, but it is amazing. The CrossFit community is unbelievable, and I'm going to keep using it because I'm 62 and I'm like 20 years into this. And sorry,
0 fucks.
It's my fucking word. Everybody else is copying me. But anyway. But there's nothing else that does it like competitions that brings us all together like that. It's
whether you're competing or not.
Yeah, and whether you like it or not. Sorry, but everybody's going to these things.
Yeah,
and they're watching the best, and they're watching their members, demonstrate their fitness. If you can think of some other reason we all get together, for a music concert, fine. But or something else like, I've seen some of these festivals out there that people are doing. Those are great. But I think if you have competition at the core and we're all hanging out, talking, then going to watch them compete, coming back, and then we're all going out at the end of the night, at the end of the evening, eating together like my community did. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we need to help and provide feedback to these guys that are hosting these competitions, encourage them to include more things for the volunteers and for our members, and to give us really good areas where we can all hang out. We've always asked, where's the tent area? Where's the tent area? It used to be like if you had a competition, like even when we had them here.
Yeah.
It was like,
parking lot.
All right. So the tents are going to be in the parking lot. We got to have that area. People come, they bring their tents, and they knew how to do it.
Set up on the grass, wherever.
It's really fucking fun. And they are at the core. I think they are the future of the competition of CrossFit and keeping this whole thing together.
Yeah. Even just to kind of as we're wrapping up, we have feedback, and it's easy to give feedback afterwards.
It is.
And the fact that they put it out there and moved the event up 3 months ahead of schedule when they originally planned, change of venue, so they went through a lot of stuff. So
they did.
I don't want to discount the challenges that they've faced throughout putting this thing on. But thanks to Blair and Ben for putting this thing together and bringing the OGs back out.
Yeah, it's 1 week later and we're still fucking talking about it. So
I'm sure we're going to continue talking about it.
Yeah,
especially as it comes around next year.
Yeah, right on. All right, thanks for joining us today, guys.
All right, guys, till next time.
Cheers.